3, 2. We are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the dialogue advice to the young developers. So what happens when a developer starts his career and that is totally directionless? They don't know what to do, how to do, where to go. And that society imposed that thought process. You need to learn all those concepts and like all those learnings. Then only you would be able to contribute like 2-year experience, fresh developers and produce that high quality production code. But in DT, with guidance of Mr. Anand sir, who is 32-year experience in the tech industry and currently fractional CTO of more than 5 companies, just guided us, and we in DT Tech Unicorns are able to build that infrastructural elements and modules widget in our like internship period. So we learned in DT and we are implementing in DT. So let's explore how you can also learn with Anand sir.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Okay. So Shagun said 32 years, right? This 32 years means nothing. Okay. It's just a number, right? End of the day, today still I learn coding. Okay. I learn coding with you guys. Rather, with everyone I code with, I actually learn from them. The idea is that understanding how one gets the concept, whatever may be it, right? Coding or otherwise, right? Okay, understand their psychology, understand how they get it, and what kind of a help needed for them to be able to to perform their work, right? That is the key. Okay, meaning that's what I look at, but that may not exactly apply to all of you guys as is, right? The intent is that, first is you are not going to learn everything in one go. Okay, you are not going to drink the ocean in one day. Okay, it's going to be a drip. Okay, one drop at a time, right? First thing is learn, you are going to do one drop at a time. Do second, right? is about the attitude to learn things and internalize it for yourself. Okay, I think I don't want to get into those topics. This is what exactly DT is focusing on, the methodologies for you guys. Okay, there are multiple techniques are being kind of being spoken about and being inculcated in you guys, right? Using these techniques for day-to-day improvement, right? In my mind, those are the only 2 things I want to set up front. Okay, which makes the difference, right? On whether, meaning one is somebody can help you guide and give you direction, but right, somebody can give you a hand, but are you willing to take the hand and move forward, right? These 2 things are super important for you to be able to move along. Okay, the pace may differ between person to person, but end of the day, you choose this path, everyone will be successful. Okay.
Yeah. So to move our discussion forward, what do you think that what are the outcomes that DT interns achieve within their internship period that normal intern or normal fresher even was not able to achieve nowadays?
See, typically, what happens in an industry, it isn't the thought process in an industry is all about, okay, somebody new has come, I'm going to teach them all. Okay, right? So this kind of an attitude is there is an intent of trying to inculcate knowledge which is beyond their capacity to understand at that given point in time, right? It is as if a child which is a born child, you're trying to figure out how to make it walk, right? So you can do only so much in a given day, right? That is, so the key for us is get the interns to be able to contribute as early as possible. And typically in industry, it might vary anywhere between 3 months at best, and worst case there are I see in larger companies, people have been in a training mode for 2 years. Okay, training mode or bench or whatnot, right? Okay. So at DT, we are looking at weeks. Okay. Right. We are trying to achieve that in weeks, that the interns are able to contribute to the project which they are associated with in about less than a month. Okay. Maybe anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, we want them to be able to contribute. The intent is not how big the contribution is. The intent is contributing. Okay. Contributing, and not just contributing, understanding what is their contribution. Okay. Which is very key, because once you understand what you have contributed, then it leaves you with certain level of satisfaction, which gives you the motivation to learn more, contribute more. Okay. The self-realization of contribution is also important. Okay. That is again comes from our methodologies, right? Self-realization, right? Meaning I have seen somewhere people are talking about the good things I did in a day, or what I have achieved for the day, right? Somebody writing a journal every day, right? Which is a super important thing, right? That gives you, right? That kind of reinforces you to to do the right things repeatedly. Okay. Right. So other important, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is how the self-actualization journals and writing their work reflection.
Shagun, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Anand, I thought the format would be nice if you could spend the first 10 minutes just describing what our interns have achieved.
Sure.
So because
a lot, 10 minutes is too less, but I will try.
Yeah, I'm sure 1 hour is too less,
Yeah.
but trying to pack it all in an hour.
Sure. Yeah.
I thought for all the young folks out here,
Yeah.
if you can first spend 10 minutes to showcase what is the significance of this intern's contribution.
Right.
That I think could be very aspirational for people to then care about the process.
Sure.
That will show the output first and the process maybe second half.
Sure.
Yeah. Would love to hear your thoughts, Mr. Anand, of what you think these people.
I want to kind of do a little bit, kind of do a little journey backwards, right? Okay, how we started first at DT, right? Maybe the first one I'll talk about is like what happened at DT in itself, right? The early days, we were trying to set up the DT systems and processes, meaning we were trying to build that, the entire DT system. Okay, today it has reached a level where many of you may not know the roots where it came from. Okay, so it was meaning we have chosen to do a open source software and build on top of it. Okay, and this was done by probably 2-3 DT interns to start with. Okay, and nobody has meaning none of them is JS experts, right? Nobody has dealt with open source software of that nature, right? But the team kind of together learned, understood, deployed the solution, played around with it, played around enough, right? They made enough mistakes, but eventually the first system took about 3 months to get something reasonably working, which others could use. Okay, so there were things were all kind of getting into shape, but it took 3 months to get a system which everybody else in the DT were able to use it, right? We were able to put into use for some schools and the school students and stuff. We were able to put into use. Okay, which was in relation. The similar software was tried for about a year plus, right? Tarun, you can correct me if I am wrong, right? More than a year it was being worked upon, right, with a larger team, including paid external consultants. Okay, so the team with limited experience we were able to do, and that system has taken a mammoth proportions today. I think a lot of credit should go to Shavan and Shagun and others who have actually moved it forward, right? Today it is a system which consists of multiple modules, which you can't believe. Typically it is as large as an enterprise software. I can call it as meaning education ERP or I don't want to call education ERP to the extent we are using our system. It's more an ERP product for a DT kind of solution, right? What we are offering, it is as mammoth as that. Okay, which has got every parts of it, right? Talk about in terms of the in terms of the feature functionality, right? Okay, we have like now community, we have like we have meaning a community of students who can come, or interns come and interact. Okay, we have project management, we have time tracking, we have bug tracking, we have communication engine, right? We have data sciences, meaning data, I would say data governance and data integration with data sciences, right? Ability to do data science and machine learning type activities. Okay. So it has grown to a place where it is what I could relate to a 10, 12 years old ERP system if you go to an enterprise. Okay. Okay. I would relate this to like something like what maybe like I have built in my first job in Ashok Leyland. Okay. Meaning I was part of building, not I built it, right? It is to that level. It is like 100 years of work has gone in there. Whereas we are talking about, we are probably talking maybe around like 10 to 15 man years of work has gone in here. But we have built a system which is like as matured as practically an ERP for any kind of an enterprise. Okay. And looking at in terms of technology, right? We have like built on this MERN stack, okay, which is the stack like which everyone is talking about today. Okay, it has got like things like we have got streaming and messaging stuff put in there, right? Meaning what Netflix is using today or Amazon Prime is using today to stream videos to you. That's the technology we are using. How the data in our system moves. Okay. Meaning these are all not things where people have, meaning typically go to industry, people don't understand the streaming concepts and stuff like until like they're 7, 8 years into their work. Okay, that's when they start trying to get this get to lay their hands on these things. Okay, and so we have full-fledged components, UI components built. For example, survey components and quizzes, like event components, right? Project, various front-end components were built. They are completely being reused today. Left, right, center in the DT system. Why it is like it is like this what was achieved in like 80, 100 man years of work we are able to achieve in 12 and 15 man years. It's high amount of reusability. Everything was thought through as like components, widgets. Okay, think reusability up front, right? So that's where like these things were created, and hence we are able to build systems. Once we reach a point, we are able to build the system much faster because we are just using our own home built components to get our solutions. Okay, you are not even taking a ready-made solution from outside, which might take some time for you to adapt. Given these solutions are built by the team and this internal team, it becomes much more easier because right, what kind of an animal it is, right? You are able to build these things much faster, and that's how like we are getting this, the kind of pace we are getting, we are seeing today, right? And like talking about components which handles the entire communication, right? Whether it is email or whether it is notifications via WhatsApp, right? All these things were actually components are built and engines were built by this team. Okay, entire data governance, everything happening in the DT system kind of pools around in one place, and the entire data governance and data capturing and data transformations all happening practically real time, meaning the platform is capable of doing that today. Okay, we are like meaning potentially this helps the entire DT, whatever data being built, being captured in DT can become a gold mine with all these capabilities. Okay, and this is all done by this team right now. I know like now I particularly wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the data governance and the Confluent based data streaming stuff. I don't think I spent a lot of time. I probably spent maybe 2, maybe 3 1-hour session with the team, maybe 4 put all together, right? I think, meaning this stuff was all completely built by them, and they were able to do it. Why? Because one, they were able to think at that level in terms of ability to understand what is the vision and ability to understand what it takes to build an engine. Okay, a standalone engine of its own nature, right? Okay, what are we trying to achieve and how to use whatever tools we are using, how to use it, right? Once you know what are you looking for in it, it's much easier, right? Okay, you can start looking for how the tool will help you to do that. Okay, I think I'm to be personally, I think it was the most gratifying thing for me, somebody built on Confluent, in matter of about 2 months, that platform. That was I personally feel, it's a huge achievement. Now, all this translated further, right? Okay, Vishkarma system today, Vishkarma, the entire the 4 interns are completely managing the entire system. Okay, so they are building this, maintaining their marketplace website, all the components underneath behind it, their operational systems, their sales and marketing systems. Okay, and Vishkarma has got tons of integrations. Okay, whether it is with Zoho, it's with Mixpanel, Sales IQ, right? There are hundreds of multiple integrations are happening, and the team is handling it. Okay, with limited help. Again, same thing Gropital, right? I think meaning I know we have done great stuff in Gropital, but I am not fully privy to the great stuff, meaning the specific incidents there, but I'm sure in Gropital also the team has done wonders. Okay, and these are the early companies which adapted it, and same thing at Kringle, but it is a little bit more on the product side, right? The interns who came can understand the product and start becoming they're in months, in 2 to 3 months, they become product managers. Okay, writing product specifications and writing documentation for meaning customers and marketing. Okay, preparing contents for marketing and also for customers. Okay, so there is more examples, right? Okay. I think I will stop here.
I think
I hope we are good on time, I assume.
right. Okay. I mean, I would really like to thank you for this. I mean, the entire journey, right? Like it throws back light on those initial days when we started, right? When you actually talk about setting up the infrastructure within 3 months. So, I mean, it reminds me back of the days when we didn't know anything, right? And today we have established something that's that can be used to build on top of it, right? So, what do you think are the processes, right? Like, what do you think are the systems that we placed that helped us in getting this outcome? So, I would like you to talk more on that. Right? Yeah, so that we also can understand.
I think this is going to be a little bit more on both the sides, right? I can talk about what I think I try to do. Okay, and then you guys can talk about what you guys did, which got us there, right?
Yeah.
This could not have been possible without both parties willing to take it forward, right? Okay, so I think see, the fundamental belief is that practice, right? There is a the good part of software is it is very easy for everyone to practice it. It's not like a project type thing which many other disciplines require you to have a lab, right? Equipments and such, right? It's practically every one of you has it. Everyone can practice it, right? It's much easier to practice. Okay. So the key is that practice is very critical. Okay. Is practice, do you need to practice 24 hours a day? No, not really. Okay. I think anywhere between 2 to 6 hours, depending upon your ability to cognize things, right? Anywhere between 2 to 4 hours, focused efforts, okay, which is very key, okay. Right. Third thing is learn and use, okay. Do not go into this learning cycle too long, okay. So you are picking up a language, right? I think if you have seen any most of this, the learning good learning tools ask you to practice as you do things, okay. It's important to what you learn you practice, okay, not just the sake of an example, but really understand the underlying concept. How does it work, right? Important. Okay, we'll talk about it a little bit later about that also very specifically, right? But learn, practice, it has to be a continuous cycle. It cannot be that, don't go into a learning for too long, but you have to be very careful, okay. This too long cycle, basically this is what creates the effect of what happens in Infosys or TCS, right? You are in a trainee for 6 months, right? At the end of it, probably it damages your motivation so much that, you feel like, you don't know, you've not done anything for 6 months, right? That itself damages your motivation, and, your psychologically, you feel that you are still not there, okay. So even if your lead is not supporting, make a point that you are learning and practicing. Learn and practice, continue to keep improving upon it, okay. Similarly, as you're learning, also kind of have a little bit focused on what you're trying to achieve, right? It's not that you learn one day Node, and next day you learn Python, the third day you try to learn, let's say, another tech stack. This makes things very difficult, okay? So learn, but take a focus for a period and, start, basically stay focused on it, okay. And it has to be continuous, right? It's don't leave, meaning, but the other thing is, as you don't want to do a longer cycles, but at the same time you don't want to leave gaps also, right? What you basically learned today, you might want to practice it by tomorrow, right? You don't want that to be kind of a next week, right? Okay, right. And don't leave too much gap between your learning cycles, okay. This learn and practice cycle, if you start leaving 1 week gap and after that I restart, you will lose a lot more, okay. Because you are at a stage where everything, you need to be able to see the relation between what you are learning, what you learned yesterday to what you are learning today. You should be able to see the relationships, right? You should be able to draw sometimes comparisons, sometimes, how this works along with it, right? There's those kind of dependencies, interdependencies, relationships, you should be able to see. And if you are continuously doing that, it is very likely you will get that, okay. And that is one of the reasons why meaning DT works 6 days a week, okay. We could have always kept 5 days, right? But why this is every day, this process of being in the system, right, in the zone, right? It's important, okay. It doesn't matter even if you do 2 hours in a day. One day, I can spend only 2 hours, it's fine, okay. Another day, one day I can spend 6 hours, next day I can spend only 2 hours, but it's still better than leaving gap, okay. And then whatever you learn, internalize. Very important thing, reflect and internalize, okay. Here I am leaving this, this is everything in as part of DT methodology. These are being taught, okay. These habits were inculcated in you, but make sure you are making use of it. I can't explain the importance of it, okay. This you will realize, right? It may be I realized today, after 35 years, I still realize, okay, had I had a habit of doing reflection, right, more methodologic in a systematic way, right, I would have been much far better in doing that. So I used to, but meaning it was probably like meaning I was just trying to like run it in my head rather than trying to write in a piece of paper. Right? Today you have tools, techniques, everything available to you, and the ease with which you can do it. You can do it in your mobile, right? While you are sitting in a bus or in a metro or a train, while you are traveling back home, you can do it, right? That 10 minutes, okay, you can find it anywhere and be able to do it. That wasn't the case, 10 years, 15 years back, right? Okay, so reflection is supremely important. Okay, one thing which makes you or fails to make you, I would say that's one habit. Reflect the good things, bad things, what you wanted to do, right? Okay, what you should have done. It's very, very critical. Okay, and understand your work. Okay, it's not that somebody came and told write this program. Writing a program is generally an easier task, but understanding why you are writing this program, what is it meant for, what am I trying to solve, okay, where does it fit in, okay, right? Okay, so if somebody says like, no, let's go play cricket, okay, bring the equipment. Let's say if I make this statement, what would you bring? Right, you can bring like the full cricket kit, like with everything, like with cricket ball and pads and all gloves and everything, but I have a like a 10 by 10 space to play cricket. Can you use any of that? Right, so you need to know like the system which you are living in, right? The context in which you are doing the work, right? Where is your what you are solving, where is it going to live, right? It's important to know. So the problem context needs to be well understood. However small you are contributing, but the larger problem context needs to be understood. Okay, so you need to know where is your species sitting and what it will do and how it will interact with the rest of the world. Okay, in that ecosystem, right? Okay, it's important to understand, because that is half the problem solved. Okay, you may still make mistake, but half the problem solved, right? Whenever you get, even if you take longer to do it, you'll still make it work. Okay, right? Okay. Next thing is think your program, right? Okay, like you have built this code. Can this, let's say you have made a task management system, something to do like to manage your tasks. Okay, should it be just like solving that, or is there a higher order problem with the same thing? Meaning, like managing my task, right? Whatever, like a module I'm going to write, or the piece of program I'm going to write, can it, as it is, can live in various other ecosystems? Okay, now you are making something, a small piece which lives in an ecosystem which it was meant for, but you start thinking, can this piece live in another ecosystem? Okay, right? And if it has to live, what characteristics should it have? Okay, right? Okay, so you say like you want a cricket ball, like but you want to play cricket, but you want to play cricket in beach. Okay, now what kind of a ball you have to take? Right, can you take a cricket ball? Right, or what kind of a ball will work? Now you see, right, we are changing the you playing in a ground, a proper ground, versus you playing in a 10 by 10, like meaning in front of your house or in your neighborhood, versus you playing in beach. It's still cricket is being played, right? Okay, how is that going to be? How can you do it? Right, so start thinking, right? Can what I am doing, can it live in another ecosystem, right? And what will be its challenge, what will be the challenges in the new ecosystem, and how it can adapt and how it can work on it. This is nothing to do with programming, nothing to do with software technology. This is about logically applying yourself, understanding characteristics of your problem. Okay, Right? Understanding the characteristics
Yeah.
of the problem, understanding the characteristics of the ecosystem.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I think Purnima has to ask something. Like she raised her hand like quite a long.
So
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, just I had this one question about this point, right? So you mentioned that when you are writing any piece of code, think of if it is to be live in a different ecosystem. So what do you mean by that? I'm just a little confused.
So that's what, like I'm saying, you want to play cricket, right? Okay. Right? Your job is to get a kit for cricket now. This is not even programming. You want to be like, no, your job is to get a kit for cricket. You're just told. Now, what kit will you bring in? So first, at least you should know today, where are you going to play? Right? Right? Are we going to the beach? Or are we going to play it in like, in front of, in your neighborhood, in front of your house? I hope everyone understands cricket, right?
Like if you're playing it in a street, you would probably bring a cheap ball in case it
So-
flies.
Whatever, like, no, let's not, yeah, right. Just like, no, just to give you a flavor of it, right? Okay. It's just that, according to the conditions, you need to like, no, meaning still the game is same, right? There is a batsman, there is a bowler, right? Somebody scores runs, somebody gets out, nothing is changing, right? Still the game is cricket.
So I just want to like move this discussion more forward. So
Sure.
as means we are going to deal with freshers and like the interns who was just going to start their career, and as you already told that in industry it took 3 to 4 months to deploy them on the project. Even in TCS and Infosys, they are like teaching people for 6 months and they just lost the curiosity that to work on the original project. So when we are going to like handle these interns and freshers in innovation environment, so what kind of attitude that project manager would need to handle all these freshers?
Okay. So we'll go with the same example, like this cricket example, right? A typical project manager like bring a cricket kit, right? You don't want to be the person saying, okay, bring a cricket kit. You as a project manager should have known first place, because you are the project manager. You should know, where are we playing? Do we know where are we playing? Okay, right? Do we know the condition? Like, meaning, okay, we are playing the street. Okay, are we playing in a street where, where all the neighborhood houses, all the glass doors? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So as a project manager, for you, it's very important to define the ecosystem. Okay. The game and the ecosystem, right? I don't want to explain cricket. Cricket is all understood. A project manager also have to explain what is cricket. Okay. What is the game of cricket in a typical project setup, right? I'm taking that example because it's easier for everyone to understand, right? Someone has to explain, right? If I'm doing an all new game, I'm saying, okay, like now build a software for playing bridge. Okay. So most people know what is the game of bridge, how to play it, right? What are the things involved? People don't know, right? They have to be taught, right? Okay. So a project manager need to know both the problem statement and the ecosystem where it lives in. Okay. Ecosystem consists of, I just use this example, like, meaning beach versus neighborhood versus this, right? One is the place, or, where it is being played, right? What is it brings, right? That brings constraints now. Okay. Right? Constraints is like, okay, in your neighborhood, like, you can't hit the ball wherever you want. Right? If you're playing in a beach, you want to get a ball which doesn't, meaning even if it gets wet, it doesn't become unplayable. Right? So you need a material of that nature, right? You can't bring a cricket ball. Right? Okay.
Yes.
So these are the kind of things, right? It is important the project manager is able to put this forward. Okay, the problem statement or the requirement very clearly, and the ecosystem and its constraints and opportunities also. There are constraints and opportunities, okay? When you go in beach, okay, I can hit any far, right? So you may want to make the game little fun, right? So that I can get any far, right? You may do something to make it like more fun if you're playing in a beach, right? Whereas if you're playing in a 10 by 10 neighborhood, you may still want to make the game fun by bringing different elements of it, okay? Meaning people would play cricket, I will say like one pitch catch, right? So you bring these elements, right? See, this is where project manager has to be knowing things, right? If project manager is completely alien to cricket, think it out. Think of it like, the project manager is alien to cricket.
Yeah.
Bring a kit, you should know what to bring. Okay, bring stems, pads, and this everything, right? Would that work, right? It might work in one place, it may not work in the other place, right? Now, the next part is like, think cricket, we just said, right? Okay, we incentivize hitting far, and we also like, we incentivize, meaning in one case, we are going to incentivize people hitting far, right? In another case, we are meaning when you are paying in a smaller neighborhood, you are disincentivizing the same thing. Okay, so now this is one side is an opportunity, other is in a constraint, but you have to design now, right? Your challenge is, if you think, right, you are writing a function called hit the ball, how you should hit, right? That can change based on the context.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay. So this is where project manager has a role to play. This is not about software programming. This is about understanding the elements and then deconstructing into smaller parts, not as a task, more as a system, right? Cricket is like, you put the steps, right? Like, bowler's characteristics, batsman's characteristics, what batsman do, what bowler do, right? Defining these things. This is where a project manager has to, like, meaning, see, sometimes it may be project manager, sometimes there will be a product specialist, sometimes it could be like business analyst, right? Right? Sometimes is a technical architect, it doesn't matter, right? The person who is in control of the project should have these elements well defined, whether by themselves or by an appropriate team member, right? Which is very key, right? Without which a person who runs the project will not be able to succeed, right? You might like end up building a cricket game to play in beach when you are like you are expected to play in your 10 by 10 neighborhood, right? Then
Yeah.
say requirements have changed.
So
Yeah, I had one more question. Please.
Sure.
So initially, like when a fresher is deployed in, like will be deployed into projects, right? So initially there is a tension, right? Like can he contribute? Can he write the high quality code, right? So how is it that you onboard and what process would you follow to onboard an intern, right? So that he's able to contribute, right? Not to wait like for 6 months, but like can be deployed very quickly.
As we discussed, as we discussed earlier, right? Important thing is like, you don't have to know everything to start coding. Okay, right? The fundamental habit we need to inculcate in interns is learn practice, right? Learn practice you do for some time, right? Of course, they have done with some of these things before. Before they come becoming interns, they have done some of this. That's why they are there, right? So essentially, important thing is to have them do what they know to do, right? So what kind of a work you give it to them, right? Okay, you have like while in cricket they are a bowler, then you say no, you define you work on like batsman features. Not a good idea, right? Try and find what they can do within the context of the project. Okay, however small it is, make sure they're understanding what they are doing, right? And help them to do it. The contributions then in itself starts making a difference. Okay, right? In cricket, like the ball boys have become great cricketers over years. Okay, right?
Yeah.
So do what you know, right? What you are comfortable doing, right? That is where I think the project manager can also make a lot of difference in identifying, okay, what the person is capable of and give them the work in that context, right? The smaller contributions eventually make a big difference.
Yeah. Then in that sense, they will get the feeling of contribution and like sense of giving something to the company or the organization that they are with.
Right,
I would
exactly.
say it's more like a sense of achievement, right? That they
Yes.
actually acquire after like
Absolutely.
deploying first code.
Yeah, that makes a lot of difference, right? And I will also go one more step as leaders, right? I don't talk project manager, as leaders, right? It's important, irrespective of whether that individual has recognized what they have done. It's important for the leaders to kind of like basically show it to them, right? Make them feel that moment. Okay.
Celebrate the moment, right?
Celebrate the moment along with, okay, make them recognize it. More importantly, celebration comes after that. Make them recognize, okay, that joy, that internal joy has to come inside them, right? One has to work for that, right? Meaning that is where a leader makes a difference. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I think now it's the open session for audience. You guys can raise your hand and ask the questions, whatever is humoring in your mind.
Yes, Aryan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, like you mentioned that whenever we are learning, we should do it like as fast as possible, but also not leave gaps in between. So, could you clarify, like, how do we ensure that we are not leaving any kind of gaps?
I think this comes a lot from habits. Okay. So see, it doesn't matter whether it is programming or whatever you're trying to do. There is a general saying that if you follow something for 21 days, right? Like it becomes a habit. Meaning slowly you start building muscle memory towards it. Okay, if you don't do that in that time of the day, or if you don't do that for a day, you start feeling uncomfortable. Okay, I think the initial period is where you need to push yourself, right? Typically, like I would suggest you guys to read this book, Atomic Habits. Okay, by James Clear. Okay, it's an excellent book. You don't have to read all the book entirety. I would, meaning this is what I've been telling my children. Okay, read one chapter in a year. Okay, only one chapter in a year, and internalize. Follow it. So it's essentially what I'm trying to say is whatever works for you, make a habit of that, right? And it is not you have to do fast. You have to do continuously, right? Okay. The key is consistency, not like meaning some people may get things faster, some people may take time to pick it up. It's okay. It just doesn't matter. Right? But consistency is key.
Are you then referring to keep a habit of learning in this case and identifying gaps?
Yeah, whatever you choose to do, right? Meaning you choose to, like, let's say you chose to learn like Android programming, right? Make that effort every day. At least spend an hour or two every day, right? Some days you may be able to spend more time. Some days you may be able to spend only less time, right? Maybe there is a time like, no, I have my exams, I'm going to give a break for a week. Yeah, you have to, right? It's kind of understood, right? But just because that okay, I am feeling like not so much interested today, let me pause today, right? This pausing thing is easy, right? Suddenly that becomes a habit, right? Before you realize that becomes a habit. Okay, so put yourself into the situation, right, to spend that like at least meaningful hours on a daily basis. Whatever it is, it's nothing to do with software. Anything you are trying to like get better at it or learn, make sure it is a habit.
So making it a habit to learn things every day and practice them as well.
Yes, right. When it comes to software, practice it. Right?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, Gaurav.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I had like two-part question.
Sure.
So I'm trying to like generalize thing, like when we're working on a project, suppose, and we encounter this conditional interdependency and conditional dependencies, like you mentioned ecosystem constraints, right? So I'm just wondering, as a newcomer to this thing, like, are there any strategies, like common strategy, general strategies that like something like one size fits all kind of thing that we can employ to manage this interdependencies?
Okay, to be honest, I am not aware of a specific system, but I think, I'm pretty sure these are not uncommon topics. I'm sure people have methodologies written around it, but I am not aware of one. Okay. But definitely I would be interested to know if anyone is aware of that. Okay. But this is, to me, the way I kind of do is this is more my cheat sheet, right? Okay. I put these things, meaning, see, if once you start using it, you don't need cheat sheets for it, right? Your mind starts working that way. Okay. What are the problems? What can happen in which conditions, right? How it's supposed to be. These questions will keep immediately pop in your mind over time. Okay, once you start practicing it. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, Rohit.
Yeah. So we earlier discussed that in big companies, people are usually put on training periods for 6 months. I'm curious to know, how does this training period where interns, where freshers learn a lot, how does it take away their motivation? How does it degrade their motivation? A long learning period.
Okay. So I'll go back to my cricket example only, right? Okay. You remain a ball boy for 6 months. Not playing cricket, but you remain a ball boy 6 months. Do you love it?
Not exactly.
Same thing goes there, right? Okay. See, the thing is what you are doing, right? You are getting inspired watching, right? Being a ball boy is what? You are getting inspired by watching experienced people playing. Okay. But if you're just getting that you're only watching and learning from them, but you can never practice it by yourself, well, it will just go nowhere, right?
Okay.
Okay. You maybe see there can be people who is just happy to be ball boys. It's okay. If I'm happy with it, I'm happy with it. That's okay. But that's not by being ball boy, you're not going to grow, right?
Yeah.
So I have one question in my mind. So why it is important for a developer to explore the code base and architecture and experiment with it with some sort of examples and all? Because usually what happened in different organization, they're like, we are not going to give code base or architecture to a developer. They won't be able to understand it. But what if we'll give them and they could experiment it? Because in our early stages, we got that code based architecture and we were coding and experimenting.
See, this is a little bit tricky question, okay, but I'll try to answer, okay. Probably it will be a little difficult to use the cricket notion here, okay. See, it's basically I will use my other favorite area, like cooking, okay, right? This is you prepare let's say a dish, okay, following the recipe, right? Versus, okay, you have given you have read a recipe sometime, right? But you want to basically create another dish out of it. So would you just, I'll take some crude examples so that you kind of, you have made a dish and, you want to replace salt with sugar. Is it okay?
No.
Not necessarily.
Crazy, right? Okay. So what can you change? So then what is that you are saying, right? You need to understand the taste, right? What goes with what, right? What can be like, a sensible thing to do, right? How can I give a different flavor to it, right? What can go, what is likely to go with it, which means you are actually like, exploring the context in which it is living, right? You are exploring everything, not just that, right? Everything it interacts with. Okay, right? Meaning I'll just give my early days of cooking, I did this. I never realized, right? I just did, okay, I wanted to make lemon tea, right? I made with milk and then I just squeezed lemon in it. You know what would have happened, right?
It
Okay.
curdles, right?
Yeah. So that is what architecture is about. You need to know what will live with what, right? How well they will go together, right? You can't be like, no, just because it's interesting, you can't keep doing it, right? Okay, you'll have meaning things which is you create unpalatable things, right? That's not the intent, right? You are trying to make a variation which is more kind of, which is more tastier, or at least to certain expectation, right? Meaning certain taste buds you are trying to basically some craving of a specific taste bud you are trying to solve for, right? You need to know how to what to adjust so that you can get it to your taste. But if I have to make for Shagun versus Shavan, right? Okay, how do I make, what kind of a variation could I make it, right? Right, this is making how to make a South Indian dish like a North Indian, or how to make a North Indian dish as a South Indian, right? Or how to make an Indian as a Chinese, or make a Chinese as Indian, right?
Yes.
That is the nuances is where the architecture comes. Okay, how do you put, what do you put first, what do you do next, right? In which order? Should it be meaning should you add this while it is hot, or should you add it later, right? When should you add what, right? Knowing these things is where your command on the system is known, right? Okay, that is when you can architect. Okay, so you need to be able to get that level where you are able to command. Okay, you know what's happening, right? You know how things happen, and accordingly you can do some interjection and bring a difference.
Yes. So after after learning and after having this after just deploying on the project, when that person or fresher just achieved his first project on his architecture, means he just understood what is the basic architecture of the code, then we could definitely get the organizational architecture to understand and go ahead with that to get that real taste.
Yeah, so you see, basically meaning I'll take you to the cooking example, right? One, you are just, let's say you are supposed to make a paste for the cooking. That's your work, but you know where this paste is used, what dish is being made, right? How this paste plays a role. But your job is to make the paste, right? You are only making the paste. Okay. So this is meaning locally understanding what you are doing, how it's going to affect. The next thing is understanding the dish, and then what difference in the space can bring what kind of variations, right? You are still learning through what you did. Okay, you are not trying to command over. There are at least, let's say there are 10 key things the dish has, right? But you are doing only one phase, right? But if you can understand how that one phase can influence the dish's outcome, that is knowing your local architecture, right? But knowing everything that goes into the dish, how that all brings the difference, is knowing the the whole architecture.
We can go with one more question, right? And
Yeah.
like due to time constraint, right? So yeah, Rishabh, you can go ahead with the question.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, sir, I actually had a emotional question, like it's more on the emotional side. So, sir, as a data scientist, there's a lot of information that comes in. Now, with this information coming in, there is an overwhelming feeling now that sometimes comes in, right? Now, this can lead to a positive outcome, whereas a negative outcome. Now, now I had an experience where it was the negative one, and I just wanted to understand what would be the best way to cope up with this overwhelming feeling, that we get with a lot of information coming in.
See, a lot of information is not your problem. Okay, that's the computer's problem and its capacity's problem, right? Not yours. You don't have to worry, right? Whether the data set is like 1 million or 1 trillion, it doesn't matter, right? It's for the computer to process. For you is to design, right? What is your metric you're trying to derive out of, and how do I derive it, right? What does it make sense? That's all you are looking to do. Okay.
The output.
Yeah. Like you are a chef, you are only like bringing the recipe, right? To make it for like for one person or like for 1,000 people, it is the cook's problem, right?
Sir, in your opinion, what does it take for an intern to become a leader?
I think meaning see that for leadership, few key things of importance, right? Leader, the biggest thing is you need to understand is one, you need to have command on the subject, whatever you are working on, right? And command on the project, command on the technology, whatever kind of role you are playing, right? But the most important thing is to understand that of your teams. Okay, you should have a good sense of whatever your team members, what they are capable of, their strengths, their weaknesses, their capabilities, right? And be able to align the work. End of the day, as a team, we need to succeed, right? It's not about like meaning somebody did great and somebody didn't do great. End of the day, how do you achieve that? That's where the leader makes a difference. Okay, the leader brings everyone into the play, right? Brings everyone into play and make them. Everyone's contribution becomes important in the longer in a larger set of things. Okay, that one attitude, right? You need to be able to like look forward. I think that's where like the leadership meaning that's the key in my mind. That's the difference between being an individual contributor to a leader, right? How do you get others? See, everyone is worth something. Okay, I very strongly believe everyone is worth something. A good leader brings whatever is worth in you, right? Brings it to the fore. That's a good leader.
Thank you, sir. That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah. I think we can go ahead with Akash too, right? Yeah, Akash, you can go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Actually, I came up with a question of like a general question in my mind that I just came across. It's like when you try to do some multiple tasking, multiple works you have thought to do, and you got to learn some more things at the same time. And so, do you think like how will you manage all things, and how will you ensure that the opted works like multiple tasks that you can do or not in a given time frame?
So the question is like meaning I'll just take a little different analogy and try to explain you this. Okay, so in computer we call like how many processors, right? When you buy a laptop computer, talk about how many processors, how many cores. Why do you ask the question?
Or we want a parallel processing what works we can do.
So to do parallel processing, what we are doing, we are adding more core or adding more processors, right?
Yes.
Which means each one becomes on its own. Instead of buying one computer, we are buying 4 computers. So parallel processing, don't try to do parallel processing to get right. Okay. So if you need to do, like, in other words, you need to create 4 compartments if you have to do 4 things. Okay. Right. You cannot do it together. You create 4 compartments, right? It's possible, it's not impossible, but it may be challenging in early days. Okay, when you're particularly like learning concept and trying to do things, this compartmentalization you may be able to do, but you might get confused, right? A lot of information will kind of leak between these compartments, and that might, if you are not have that level of maturity, it might add to confusion rather than it adds to confusion. Avoid it, right? Okay, do one thing, do that well, right? That's what I would suggest until you get comfortable. Okay, right?
Thank you so much.
Okay. So anyone else would like to go ahead with the question? Because I think now we have time. We can take one or two more questions, right? So anyone? Come on, guys. I think, yeah. Yes, Ashok, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I have a question. As you have told us, sir, that we need to like learn and practice, and whatever we are learning, we need to go into the depth.
Right.
But um, yeah, but as I'm experienced that mm, as I'm doing some work in the DT itself, and I can see there are some tools that I needed to do for that particular instance only. And after that, I think I really maybe like I never have to use that mm, app again. So it is really necessary to now detail about those app or those language.
Is a see, there are times in your life you will make certain compromises depending on the context. Okay. Whether it is this app or this tool, right, or language, whatever stack, whatever it is, right? If you are indeed sure it is going to be like, you have a very specific and a focused need for it, you don't see there is meaning larger value with it, do use it to the extent what you have to use it. Okay, right? It is fine to do that. Not that everyone needs to be like, learn to the depth. Okay, but if you're totally sure about it, okay, it's okay. Meaning we all make those choices. Okay, if there is a situation demands, you can do it always. But typically, like, meaning when you're then you're not learning. You are just, your focus is to get it done. Okay, remember, right? Your focus is not learning. The focus is to get your work done, right? Whatever tool, language, whatever you want to use, I will use it and get my work done. Does it answer your question? So,
yes, it answers my question, but it arises one more thing. So,
sure.
Is it wrong to have your project or your work done because as the technology is changing every day. Right now, maybe you are using like a Power BI or something. After some time, you will be using other thing. You will be using those things for instances only. Because as a data scientist, I work for the data analysis part, but there are also some other works part. Uh, at that time, most of the time, at that time, I just think that my work should be done.
See, if you're like, just to go by the example, right? Power BI. There is today.
Yeah, basically, I needed your advice.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me try, right? See, you are using Power BI, right? You see, like, there is Tableau, there is, there are many tools that are available today, right? Okay. So now, what's your focus? Is your focus learning Power BI or learning data analysis, like, data visualization fundamentals? What is it your focus? You find answer from yourself.
Data analytics.
Right? If you're doing data analytics, it doesn't matter what tool I use, right? I find out how to use the tool. Okay. I want to do a bubble chart, right? This is your data analyst thinking. Okay. This data is well represented as a bubble chart. Okay. Now it doesn't matter which tool I use. Okay. I can do it. Right? There are hundreds of tools which can do it. Okay. It's a representation of the tools are helping you to bring your final output. It is not the code. Right? So you may just because you have been using Power BI, you may be very versatile with it. But if you had to use another tool, you might take some time to figure it out how to do it. But concepts are same, right? What a bubble chart is, a bubble chart remains there, right? Okay. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, now it answers my question. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Amrit and Hinglaj, we won't be able to take your question because because I think we are already running late, right? So yeah, thank you guys for taking initiative. But I would I would really thank Anand sir, right? Like because you answered like most of the questions with like not using technical terms, but you answered it quite well, like how a beginner can understand, right? So I think that's really good, right? And I mean, one thing that I really like was the approach, right, that we discussed, right? How we can bring down the 6 month approach to nearly a week, right? Because I think one of the things that we follow in DT is how we can learn less and contribute more, right? The bare minimum to get started with. So I think that's really insightful, right? Because if we could implement this in our daily life, right? Say example, I'm trying to learn a new tech stack, right? I can always start by learning the basics rather than worrying about too much complex details. So I think, yeah, that's an interesting insight for every developer, right? So if you want to learn something new, it's very good to learn with the basics, right? So I think, yeah, with this thought, I would like to actually close the session, right? So thank you everyone for joining this, and yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great learning. Hope this session
Thank
is
you, sir.
insightful for you.